Welcome to Practical Principles. This is Practical Prince, and this is our philosophy segment. So let me go ahead and share our whiteboard like usual. Quick update on animal interactions, though. There's definitely communication, and there's even interspecies communication. But it's not to the extent that we as humans have. So again, whether or not we break humans into a separate category, I mean, we are for now. We still don't know exactly how or what is the dividing line in that case. But yeah, well, so that's the update on that. For today, I think we'll largely just go over human interactions. And for that, we'll just look at a couple different scenarios and try to work through them. So, first example, we'll do rock. And let me do some more. Second example, we'll do plant. Third example, we'll do an animal. And fourth example, we'll do human. Yep. Okay. Ta-da. All right. And we'll notch this down a little just so we've got more space for it. Okay, so with the example of a rock, which reminds me, let me grab my fidget toy. It's not strictly a fidget toy. It's not technically a puzzle, really. It's just, I don't know what you call it, a little art cube you can play with. Anyways, but basically, this is the category of things that are static. They don't, as far as we know, change over time, except in as much as like deterioration happens. They don't seem to exert any sort of will. So, in the same category of rock, you might include the moon or the sun. I guess you could include water in the sky. A lot of basics, I suppose. And then, of course, a rock. So looking at this example, how should a human interact? And I guess let me clarify our whiteboard, because otherwise it might be... That's, yeah, might not be most intuitive coming back to that. So with something static or inert like that, there's no expression of pain. There's no pattern. It's just super static. So a lot of people, I think, would agree that um, destroying um, is okay. Um, yeah, we'll just leave it like that for now. So, like when you take a rock and you drill a hole into it and then slide string through it, like there's nothing wrong. Um, and obviously, you could just throw rock at something and break it, hit it with something and break it. There isn't necessarily something wrong. It exists, um, and it can change, and we do see that um, with stuff in here, just wear and tear, so to speak. Um, but we've no reason to believe accelerating that is any better, delaying that any better. Um, so let's note that really it's ambivalent, indifferent, as far as any of us can tell, to what happens to it. Um, so basically, these are, I guess, potentially resources. I don't know that you would call, I mean, the sun is a resource in some sense. In some sense, it's an obstacle because that will kill you if you mess with it too much. Get too close. Similar thing with water. I mean, drowning, you don't say the water killed you per se. Um, you drowned, your lungs filled up with water or something like that. So there's like moral indifference and gosh, I should probably look up. I'll just note this down here because I feel like we're done with this. Moral versus ethical. That might actually be our topic for next time. Because I want to say that those, they're related but different. So, and so here I'm just going to do indifference. And I think that'll be good enough for the rock category. So now, moving on to plants. You've got, I mean, like, there's obviously some destruction that we perform, at least currently. Cutting down trees for lumber to make tools or houses or art. It varies. But as a plant, there is living versus dead plants. So, and we can, I'm pretty sure we can determine whether it's living. Both living and dead states. I'm trying to think of communication. If there's really, um, because you can definitely interfere. Like I want to say there's some experiment where you take a log, put it on its side, and it'll start growing sideways out of it, which is the new up, um, towards the new up to get to the sunlight. So it's exhibiting patterns. Um, but you don't really, yeah, the pattern doesn't evolve based off of input. I mean, you salt the soil or something, kill it, and it just dies. It doesn't stop trying to live, but eventually it can't sustain itself. Um, so basically, we get no. How do we want to phrase this? Stable pattern, interference, change. Oh, I want this to fit in here. So basically, we've got something that's non-responsive, similar to like a human in a coma. Like it will continue breathing, I think. I guess I'm not familiar with comas enough to say. But you can poke, prod, whatnot, and not get a response. Um, so, I mean, I think we can agree where when it doesn't communicate, it adapts, but it doesn't. It's still following the script, so to speak. It doesn't really change based off of input. So here, I think again, and as far as, because I mean, like, we know that if we destroy all the plants, we've got nothing to clean the air and we'll kill ourselves. But in this one on one sort of interaction, it's okay to destroy, it's okay to preserve, water the tree or cut it down. So, why are we saying that's okay? Basically, because we're not getting a response. So if something can't communicate with us, yeah, there's only so much we can do about that. And of course, yeah, I think this will end up being tomorrow's top or next week's topic. When we get to animal, it gets a bit more interesting. So we still have the living and dead states. We have dynamic patterns. They will adapt based off of input. And then now we get to the destroying, preserving. And I'm not sure we have an answer. I mean, this is definitely a contentious subject. Because I mean, people eat animals, for lack of a better word, for sustenance. But then people also raise, care for animals. And is one more right than another? So, like when it's time to butcher the cattle to turn them into burgers and whatnot, eventually, is there something wrong there? And I think, yeah, we're going to need to answer the moral versus ethic question, I think. And a lot of the stuff we decide for animals, I mean, humans will inherit and then build off of. So, yeah, this might be one we end up coming back to and reusing the same board for. Because, I think we need to look into that moral versus ethical. And I'm going to have to research that to be more definitive. Because part of that is, where does right or good come from? If you're religious, it will come from a mix well, you could have prophets, you could have scripture. We have conscious, of course. That was our tentative response to what is right. But where this is a contentious subject, I feel like we should try to get something a little more solid. So I think this was incredibly short session today. We'll call it there. I'll do research on the moral versus ethic. And we'll talk about that next week. And then probably the week after, come back, or as appropriate, come back and finish filling this out. I'll still post what we've got for now to the social medias. But this is definitely a work in progress, as this whole philosophy we've been working on always was. So, thanks for tuning in. There's the Fun Friday on Friday. Same time, we'll just do the Talkin' Tarot segment. Next week, we'll do morals versus ethics. Figure that out so that we can then talk about it here, hopefully. And until then, take care.